Good evening. This is Rudy Giuliani. This is the Rudy Giuliani Show, and we are now 2 days into the death of the Pope, Pope Francis. He died actually. Well, it's actually a day and a half. He died yesterday morning, the morning right after Easter. It's interesting that he lived for his last Easter. I think that's quite poetic and quite beautiful. And we'll spend some time going over his impact, and we'll spend some time describing to you, what happens next, which will be a process of anywhere from 2.5 to 5 weeks. It's probably going to be as fast as possible because they've had some time to consider this. It looked like the Pope was going to die back in February, and the cardinals were really scheduled to all come in when we were in Rome. And we even saw the robes that have been made. Every time a new pope is selected, they make 3 sets of white robes for the Pope: short, medium, and tall. And we saw all 3, and they were ready. Now, thank goodness nothing else was ready. I was worried they'd have the whole thing ready, but it was interesting to be in the Sistine Chapel, and we'll talk to you about that later. Let's first talk about the case before the Supreme Court today, which could have very far-reaching impact. It's a case involving opt-outs by parents. Now, this has been an issue, and I saw it debated on Fox today, and it reminded me this was being debated when I ran for mayor in 1992 and 93. New York City had introduced into the curriculum of the public schools. Now, this is a generation ago, right? More? 2 books. Sarah has 2 mommies, or Jacob has 2 daddies, or something. Both of them. That was the guy. There were 2 books like that. I've forgotten the exact names. Those are not the exact names, but they basically were about gay marriage or gay parenthood, and they were put in the system originally, and then there was a big debate over whether parents should be allowed to opt their children out, and the bureaucrats, school types like the Democrats, right, were in favor of you should opt out, not allowed to. You have to be educated on the fact that there are people who are gay and lesbian and might want to be married, and you should be educated when the school board thinks you should be educated. And then there were parents that thought you shouldn't be educated at all about such things, I guess, but they really weren't very heavily represented. The other group was the group that said that parents should be able to opt you out of that, that should be a voluntary, available. And there were some who felt that it should not certainly be in the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd grade. And this led to great debate. My opponent, David Dinkins, was of course in favor of starting to teach it to them at birth. But ultimately, my 1 vote, the school board required opt out, or actually opt in. So it had to be even more affirmative than that. Now, of course, we've gone way beyond that. We're in this particular case, these are books about homosexuality, gay life, children who are about trans. You look at some of the books, and even Justice Kagan, who listened to the argument, was quite shocked at the material that is being made available to 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th graders. There had been in the Maryland School District, that was the subject of the case, there had been an opt-out provision for parents. So these were available for parents that approved it, and not available for kids of parents who said no. And a couple of years ago, the school board voted it down over the vociferous objection of the parents. And now the case is before the Supreme Court. Who wins? The school bureaucrats or the parents? Now, it seemed from the argument that two of the justices, Jackson and Sotomayor, well, certainly Sotomayor, are solidly on the side of, you can start showing them, you can start showing them anything you want at any age. Jackson was leaning that way, but also had some reservations about how properly should the parents be involved. She didn't seem to be completely comfortable with throwing the parents out of the process completely. So I'd have to say she isn't a full-fledged Marxist like Sotomayor, but because Sotomayor, who I know, doesn't really know she is. But please understand that this is all a concept that goes back over 150 years to the admonition of Marx that it is critically important for the development of communism that the children really optimally, by the time they're two, become property of the state. So if you think about this, from the time Terry McAuliffe raised this, that lost a governorship for him in the state of Virginia, the adjoining state, that parents really shouldn't really have much to say about education. After all, they're not educated to educate, and it should be educators. He was espousing what is a well over a century-long position of statists, communists, socialists, Nazis, that it is critically important that you take over the mind of the child, that you shape the child into a complete creature of the state. And we've seen that reflect itself in bitter arguments of parents, being arrested, parents not being allowed to have anything to say about the pandemic, and now parents having nothing to say about very, very sensitive subjects of sexuality, that parents, for reasons of health, parents having differing views of mental health even, and certainly having differing views on moral values, should be the ultimate arbiters of. It seemed like at least, you never know with Amy Coney Barrett nowadays, where the hell she's going to go. And I didn't see any questions from her that give you a solid indication of where she's going. Justice Kavanaugh was the most articulate and seemed to sum up the feelings of most of the justices by being somewhat shocked at how far all this went. Even Justice Kagan kind of seemed to have expressed that. So this looks to me like all 6 conservative judges are going to put a limit on what the state can do and the bureaucrats can do to take ownership of your child, and stick with the principle of Western civilization, not the principle of Marx and Eastern civilization, that the society owns your child. Sotomayor looks like a dissent. Jackson looks a little more like a dissent than going with the conservatives, and there's a chance Kagan will. And that will have a big impact also on the states like the really way out states like Minnesota, where you can go, a child 14 years and older can go get mutilated without the consent of the parents, as long as the state permits it, which is kind of like a tremendous move in the direction of taking your child away from you. Looks like this is going to come out the other way. I don't know that we have any other quotes from the court.
We do. Let's play.
But just so you hear their language, I think I summarized it pretty fairly, but just so you get an idea. Now, remember, questions from the court don't always, I have very occasionally been fooled in oral arguments of my own or those that I was supervising or those that I was just listening to by the statements of the court. But not when they're not, I would say never when they were as many and as definitive as this. So this does not seem to me to be, they're teasing us. This seems to be very serious statements of what their position is right now. So let's listen.
Let's
to
play
this.
some Kagan, and then we have Kavanaugh. Let's play both.
Okay.
Forward answer, which I appreciate. But in terms of opt-out, you're basically saying opt out for anything. It's really the parents that get to decide, assuming that their beliefs are sincere, right? It's really the parent that gets to decide. Doesn't matter the kid's age, doesn't matter sex, not sex. Doesn't really matter this whole idea, I suppose, of pressure or coercion. If just looking at a book would be in conflict with religious principles, that would be enough.
Well, and I would just to be.
They're not asking you to change that at all. A lot of the rhetoric suggests that they might have, that they were trying to do that, but that's not what they're trying to do. They're only seeking to be able to walk out so that they don't have to, the parents don't have their children exposed to these things that are contrary to their own beliefs.
I am.
Well, Kagan's statement, now that I hear it again, isn't quite as revelatory as I thought. It's more neutral. She's trying to get a sense of the scope of the opt-out. And also the argument, of course, is made by those that are in favor of these salacious materials that it creates a sense of bitterness and anger, and when things like this are kept from the children. Of course, what they don't know doesn't make them bitter or angry, and it really works the other way around. The idea is, aren't there subjects that are too dicey, sensitive, difficult to understand to introduce at very, very early ages? Whether you say this is or this isn't, the left-wing, communist, Nazi, fascist view would be let the state decide that, and the conservative view, the default position would be for the parent. And remember, it's the default position. I thought there was in Justice Kagan's question something that is very often not really discussed. Some of the argument that the teachers and the bureaucrats are better off making this decision is based on the premise of irresponsible parents or no parents. And of course, that is a phenomenon. And it afflicts, unfortunately, a lot of what we call inner city America, but not all of it. I mean, that's overdone. Even in poor communities, and I probably have as much experience as anyone. I ran the largest and probably the richest and the poorest school district in the country. Most poor children have parents, right? Not all. Or at least they have a parent, and you'd be surprised whether they're poor or not, the interest that parents have in their children. And you'd also be surprised about the superiority of their innate understanding of their children over the government bureaucrats who have a cookie cutter approach, if they have any approach at all. A lot of them are just very cold bastards and don't really give a damn about the children at all, just give a damn about their 4 hours of work and their vacation. And how soon are they going to become how soon are they going to become a bureaucrat? As quickly as possible. Now, this comes from great experience. So I haven't been mayor since 2001. We are now spending 2.5 times what I spent on the children of New York City, and they since then they have fallen off the chart. And New York City was well in the top 10 in everything when I was the mayor. It is now in the bottom 20s in everything. And we spent 2.5 times more money. So the idea that you spend more money and you get better results, it's just the opposite, which tells you that is a completely corrupt system, doesn't it? The expenditure of money has nothing to do with the performance of the children. It has to do with the easy and happy lives of the teachers and bureaucrats. And union. I would like you to take a look at what's happened now. This is now begins 10 years after I was mayor. So if I should go back and do the chart when I was mayor. So if you look at this chart, I don't know if I can put it up yet, but I'm going to show it to you. It shows that when they're using the fourth grade as the example. 10 years ago, in Maryland, the state that's contesting this, they were second in reading. And now they're 20th in reading. And they spend double the amount of money. Now, they used to be 16th in math, and now they're 39th in math. And they spend a lot more money and do a lot more of these, teaching kids to doubt their gender. They spend a great deal. They spend, as much time on that probably as reading and math. And if they spend any time on reading and math, or they spend time on getting them to hate, President Trump. Here's the chart if you want to look at it. This is what they should be concerned about, not, Mary has two daddies, or Jacob has two mommies. They should be concerned about Mary and Jacob have dropped 18 positions in reading in less than a decade, and 17 positions in math, as the state doubled the amount of money spent on them. Nobody's asking that question. That's the question that has to do with the good of the children, not the pay, vacation, and benefits of, not even the teachers. Teachers, become bureaucrats so quickly. There are many more bureaucrats in the system than there are teachers. New York City school system is a big system of bureaucrats with a couple of teachers. Well, as I said, we're in the second day now of the largest single church in the world and the most universal church in the world without a pontiff. If you want to know, the head of the church is an American cardinal who is the Camerlengo. And we'll describe that in a short while. But I thought we'd say a few words about Pope Francis, who was elected to the papacy in 2013 upon the resignation of Pope Benedict. And I don't know, I didn't remember this until I reread it, because they are now describing him as not one of the top choices, during the process we're going to be going through in a few weeks, the conclave. But the reality is, when Pope Benedict was voted in 8 or 9 years earlier, Pope Francis was the number 2 choice. He came very close to being Pope 9 years earlier. So after Benedict resigned, he got elected. He's been very ill lately. Since February, I wouldn't say that his death has been predicted, or maybe I would say that. In fact, when I was at the Vatican about 6 weeks ago, without being distasteful, you could get a sense that they were getting ready for, the major thing that hits them sometimes. Sometimes it's every 20 years or 25 years, sometimes every 10 or 8, or I don't know what the average is. The average over modern times with a couple of long papacies is probably about 10 years. And if you look at Pope Benedict, if Benedict hadn't resigned, he'd have been Pope up until 2 years ago. He lived 9 years after his resignation. I don't know if it is the last meeting that he had, but it may very well be that the last meeting that Pope Francis had was with our vice president, a recent convert to the Catholic Church, J.D. Vance, who is indicative of a very, very prevalent new type of Catholic, which is almost inconsistent with the thrust of the papacy of Pope Francis. As you know, Pope Francis comes from Argentina, but he's a first-generation Argentinian. He certainly is on his father's side. His father came from Italy, born in Italy, and then, unlike all the Italians that came to America, many and many went to Argentina. Argentina has a larger percentage of its population Italian than America does. And I remember one time, could it be in the 30% Italian heritage? You have some of that in Brazil too, in Venezuela, but Argentina probably the most. The Pope was selected back then because Pope Benedict was seen as very conservative and very traditional, and they did want a Pope that was going to be somewhat more open to a somewhat more flexible church, and one who would be very dedicated to the poor. I don't think they expected two things. At the time that they made the choice, the whole direction of Europe and even the United States, I mean, after all, Obama was the president of the United States, was very much left and very much in the direction of one world government. The EU, it's before the UK withdrew from the EU. It's before all of the immigration issues emerged in Europe and in the United States. It's before, it's as woke was developing, and we still didn't see the heights of the acceptance of woke, what you would call way of life. And now it's on the decline, and Europe is filled, and the United States even more so, with a very, very big counterreaction to that, which is to restore tradition. And strangely, as the Pope had as the Church had a Pope that was probably one of the most non-traditional popes ever, the Catholic Church grew in America, in South America, in Asia, and I think in Africa more than any place else, or it could be Asia. And it grew on the strength of its appeal for traditional values, not only bringing back what we call fallen Catholics, but also attracting a fair number of converts from Protestant religions that had become extremely left-wing and seemed to have adopted relativism rather than moral a set of fixed moral principles. So here you have a pope that accepted gay marriage. You have a pope that, although he didn't go as far as to say that it would be consecrated as a sacrament of the church, he did go so far as they could be blessed. With regard to LGBTQ plus community, his quote was, "Who am I to judge?" About gay followers of Christ, and he made it clear that homosexuality is not a crime, and that it's. But then, after great pressure, acknowledged that it was a sin. And on that thought, I will give you some of the benefit of the long lessons I had many years ago when I thought about being a priest in moral theology, and tell you the distinction that he was making, which I think is overdone and simplified to his detriment. But gosh, these subjects are never discussed very, very neutrally. So we'll be back very shortly.
Hello, everyone. I'm excited to announce the next generation of energy drinks, Rev 7. It has no sugar and no caffeine. Instead, Rev 7 uses Go BHB. Go BHB is one of the body's primary ketones, and it provides the most efficient and clean fuel that your body needs. It also helps you stay energized all day with no crashes. Not only that, it produces 3 times more brain energy than sugar, which helps boost your memory, focus, and mental sharpness. It also helps reduce stress and helps balance your mood. Rev 7 does all that while being the best tasting energy drink ever. So go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save 20% today. I'm so sure you're going to love Rev 7. For a limited time, you get our introductory 3-pack absolutely free. I drink Rev 7 every day and I absolutely love it, and so will you. Have you ever wondered what happened to the legendary Chuck Norris? Well, I recently saw a video he made and I was shocked. That guy's amazing and he's staying active well into his 80s. What's even more shocking is he's stronger, can work out longer, and even has plenty of energy left over for his grandkids. He did this by just making one change. He says he still feels like he's in his 50s. His wife even started doing this one thing too, and she's never felt better. She says she feels 10 years younger, her body looks leaner, and she has energy all day. Chuck made a very special video that explains everything. Make sure you watch it by going to chuckdefense.com/Lindell. It will change the way you think about your health. Once again, that's chuckdefense.com/Lindell. You won't believe how simple it is.
Allison, and we're back.
Welcome back to the Rudy Giuliani Show. And I think we can go to Washington, right? Right to Washington. Allison, right? Allison, how are you?
She's frozen.
I don't know if she can hear me. I can see her quite clearly. There you are, Allison.
Hi, Mayor. How
How
are
are
you
you?
doing today? I'm good. Thank
Well,
you so
you are-
much.
Let me ask a frivolous question first. Well, maybe not so frivolous. Were you at the Easter egg hunt yesterday?
I wasn't actually at the South Lawn event, but I was here in the North Lawn, sort of covering the events of the day. But it looked like it was a wonderful time for all of the families that were in attendance. It was a really special day for President Trump to come out and interact with many children, and it looked like everyone had an amazing time. So it was very cute and a nice, refreshing change of pace from Joe Biden's Easter celebration the year before.
So, well, I guess we're back to family Easter egg hunts rather than pornographic X-rated Easter egg hunts. That's very good.
Yes,
So,
that's right.
So there was there's an important meeting with Secretary Kennedy today, and
Yes.
and I thought he showed there's a great deal of unity in his department as to what they want to do. Did you get a chance to focus on that?
I was not present for the event, though I did watch it on lindelltv.com. And it was a great event, a very exciting day for the Maha crowd. This is one major step that Kennedy is taking to improve the health of all Americans. Basically, there was a big announcement today at Health and Human Services headquarters in which RFK Jr. revealed that he is going to be banning all synthetic food dyes from our food supply and medications as well. It's so scary these days. This food dye is just hidden in literally everything that we consume, and it is very dangerous for us. It has a multitude of negative repercussions on our health. So this is a big step in making America healthy again. He's also announced his focus on, eliminating childhood obesity, getting all of the poisons out of the food and the water. So this was a major announcement today. Again, he's set to make this take effect by the end of 2026. So hopefully all of the poisons are out of the food by then. I know it's a big endeavor since literally everything is basically poison now, but I'm glad to see him doing it. So the Maha crowd is very happy with this one today.
Well, that's good. And also, it seems to me that there's a sense, because the market did so well today, that we're on the verge of several trade agreements. Yesterday, they sort of panicked.
Yes.
There were so many mentioned and on the table and none being signed. But today, it seems that the word must have gotten out that at least one or two of them are going to be signed very, very quickly.
Yeah, that's right. Regarding trade developments today, it wasn't actually one of the main focuses of the briefing, but some questions did come up. Caroline Leavitt mentioned the administration's trade team is engaging with 34 countries during the week with 18 trade proposals currently on paper. So I think, indicates that negotiations are in the works. I think this, is particularly concerning the trade war with China. So it looks like good progress is being made there, and they seem to be very happy with the direction that things are going as far as the trade is concerned.
And our friend Pete Hegseth, he seems to be taking a pounding. Even on his old network, Fox, he was described as embattled. Whenever they put adjectives in front of your name like that, angry, embattled, concerned, embattled Pete. But it seemed to me that the White House, and at least the part that I heard, but I'd rather have you tell us, it seemed like there was a great deal of support for him from the president and from the press office.
Yes, that's right. As we know, the attempts to oust Hegseth continue on. This has been sort of an ongoing effort. This time it's very interesting because it's people that are close to MAGA, people that were once trusted leaking information, which the Trump administration has stated they have no tolerance for. It just, really exposes them for the frauds that they are. So this is disappointing to see this happening. Multiple people coming out in opposition to Hegseth. NPR wrote up a savvy little article yesterday trying to make the viewers believe that Trump is looking for a replacement for Hegseth. But immediately upon that fake news release, Caroline Leavitt tweeted out, "This is just fake news, not to worry. Trump is very happy with Hegseth and the work that he continues to do. He, has a lot of hard work to do and undo a lot of the damage that was done under the Biden regime. So he's hard at work, and President Trump, it sounds like, fully supports him." So that's just a bunch of more fake news from the fake news media. And I guess, that's to be expected because that's what they do best, right?
Good job straightening out. I can't seem to get anything else on CNN and MSNBC, but this MS-13 guy they want to bring back to Maryland so we can continue to beat the hell out of his wife. But they got the whole Democratic Party down there in El Salvador trying to harass the president so that this guy who is a member of MS-13 has a history of beating the hell out of his wife. We can get him back quickly. Amazing.
Isn't it amazing? I mean, you have a known gang member. He's got all the tattoos to indicate it. He has a history of beating his wife. Yet you have the Democrats coming out in support of him, rallying for him to bring him home when he should never be here in the first place. He's an illegal alien. And now they're trying to spin this whole narrative into making him out to be this wonderful father. He's just a Maryland man. He's done no wrong. No, it's disgusting. It's despicable. He, again, doesn't belong here. He's right back where he should be in El Salvador. And I hope that's where he stays. President Trump has stated numerous times that he will not bring him back into the country. Even Bukele himself has stated, "Why would I smuggle this man back into America? That would not be right." So he should stay in El Salvador. And I guess if the Democrats want to continue wasting tax dollars to go out there, I guess, but I don't even think that should be allowed. That's deeply concerning to me.
They're using their campaign fund, so hopefully they won't be able to use it on campaigning. Well, keep an eye on the first. It's going to be interesting to see which the first trade agreement is. I have a feeling there's going to be one this week because
I think so too. I think we're getting closer.
Yeah, I think that. And I also think the White House, and there has to have been some kind of a word to Wall Street that there's going to be one because Wall Street just flipped around today. I mean, yesterday they thought we had lost track of the trade agreements. And today it seems like they're very sure there's going to be one. And it could be India, where the vice president had a very good meeting with Modi. Or it could be Japan, which is just about ready. But I think there will be one. And as soon as you get one, they'll all fall in line.
That's right.
That's that's my view. So thanks again, Allison. Thank you.
Yes, we'll keep you updated on that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Well, we're going to take a short break. and we'll be right back. Here we are, pretty much at the beginning of the process here at this pristine, I call it a laboratory. It's not like a factory, it's like a hospital. This is the beginning of the process for roasting. Deep grain, very good quality. Most people don't use this quality. We deal with small farmers because they like to know who we're dealing with. They give us the highest quality, all organic, non-GMO. You should know all Arabica beans, no Robusto, all Arabica. They're going to go into the roaster, and it'll get roasted for about 20 minutes or so. Oh my goodness, look at these. My goodness. You're going to want to specially order these. This is what goes into Rudy's coffee.
If you want to feel and look your best, you need to check out Pure Health Research. They have 45 premium health supplements that are designed to help you with everyday health goals. Whether it's boosting your energy or trimming belly fat, supporting healthy blood sugar, pumping your testosterone up, or even reducing swelling in your legs, Pure Health Research Supplement Store has you covered. Each formula is crafted with natural, non-GMO ingredients, backed by clinical research and manufactured right here in the USA. And here's the best part. Pure Health Research is offering you an exclusive 35% discount. Just go to purehealthresearch.com and use promo code Lindell at checkout. With their 365-day money-back guarantee, there's nothing to lose. So head over to purehealthresearch.com now, explore their 45 amazing supplements, and save 35% before this deal ends with promo code Lindell.
Well, this is Rudy Giuliani. We're back with the Rudy Giuliani Show. Ted and I just made an observation that hasn't really been mentioned very prominently. But during this period now, with the death of the Pope, in which a ceremony took place yesterday late in the afternoon, which is quite gripping and quite dramatic, really, the highest ranking official right now, who would be tantamount to the acting pope, although he is instructed to make as few decisions as possible and to put them off. But if they're necessary, of course, he's got to make them. So he is the highest sovereign in the church right now. His name is Kevin Cardinal Farrell, who was born in Ireland, but I think is a United States citizen. And he was the bishop of Dallas. And I don't think he was the bishop in Washington, D.C., but I think he was an auxiliary bishop in Washington, D.C. So he's an American. Maybe they're afraid to tell people that an American is in charge of the Vatican.
Do you think that's the closest we'll get to having a pope anytime soon? The United States of America?
Well, there are a couple of possibilities, including my own. Good friend, Cardinal Dolan, and Cardinal Dolan of New York, who is very well liked, very much appreciated for his skills. I mean, he certainly has the personality, the media skill, the warmth, intelligence. I mean, he's got everything to be a pope. The question is, he is one of the things mentioned in all these analysis that are done where he's on the list is that he's an outside possibility and hurt very much because he's very American. Well, I mean, too bad.
What's wrong with that?
I don't know. I don't know what's wrong with that, but we'll talk about that in a moment. It's fascinating that, as I said, I think one of the last people the Pope may have met with is J.D. Vance, and it was not a harsh conversation, But it wasn't confrontational. It was more a bit of a dispute. And the Pope, of course, the Pope's last objection to us here in America was that our view on immigration. Of course, I don't know if JD brought up with him the fact that the Catholic Church has gone way beyond its mission in what it's done with illegal migrants. It's really acted as an aider and abetter. And the Pope, who's Francis and loves all the poor and is fabulous, but some of those poor are rapists and murderers and child molesters and have taken America to being the number one country in human trafficking. These are all the people that the Catholic Church is helping come in and trying to hide from lawful authority. So I don't know that the Pope, who has a view that's about 30 years old on immigration, really has an appreciation for what it means in a country to have anywhere from 12 to 20 million people come in a 3.5-year period and not know who they are. And are you really serving the people of God by doing that, since you're getting the people of God killed, beaten? And I mean, 60% of the crime in Queens comes from these new people that came in. So was that really a charitable decision? Or are you for political reasons and maybe other reasons, all not very legitimate, violating your obligation to protect people, which after all is a very important obligation, particularly for people who can't defend themselves. But I don't know how deep the conversation with Vice President Vance went. It did seem in the last year or so, or maybe a little longer, the Pope's sort of criticism of America seemed to have softened somewhat. His papacy was, as I said, intended and built into a world that looked like it was going very global, one world, and that it was a perfect time to, although not calling it socialism, to open up socialist, very, very aggressive socialist ideas. And having a pope that came from the land of liberation theology, and maybe even more in that direction than people thought when he was elected, certainly moved the church in what I would say it was a very progressive direction. And I don't mean progressive here as good progressive. I mean progressive like doing the work of Karl Marx. The other thing that troubled me greatly about the Pope, and one of the candidates for Pope was one of the major architects of this policy, is the sharing of the appointment of bishops with the atheistic Red Chinese government. For the life of me, I do not understand that. I don't understand how they get anything to say about who the bishop of the church is going to be. Now, what do they want? Something like Kirill, the patriarch of Moscow that works for the mass murderer Putin? I mean, there goes your church. So this Pope, although he had great love for the poor, did a lot really in reducing some of the ostentatious waste of the church. I think he did a very, very good job in getting control of the Vatican finances, which for years were the subject of one major scandal after another, not so much involving the Pope himself or even the group of cardinals around him who were thinking much bigger thoughts than allow them to take a good look at what's happening to the finances. It's a little like an editorial board. But that's been plaguing the church for 100 years. And it seems to me that he threw everybody out, brought in professionals. And look, I haven't audited it. All I can tell you is the general impression is that's being handled much more effectively now and without all of the elaborate waste and spending. The other thing was he really cracked down on the whole issue of the pedophilia scandal and rooted out anyone who was involved in it instead of appearing to be not necessarily involved in it, but worried that, we better not go too far into this because he finally did what had to be done, which is, look, this did not involve the upper echelon of the church. It certainly didn't involve anywhere near the vast majority of members of the Catholic Church or clerics of the Catholic Church, any more than in any other denomination that has similar problems. But the Catholic Church made it worse for itself. As we often say, the cover-up was worse than the crime. And a lot of the bishops, who probably themselves, I'm hoping and praying, were not involved in pedophilia themselves, because it was so damaging to the reputation of the church, went in the wrong direction in covering up. He just broke the church of that and put it behind them and moved on. And for that, he will always get great credit. And he did. He did reemphasize, and maybe this is the single most important thing he did. He reemphasized the mission of the successor of St. Peter and the person that Jesus Christ entrusted with his church. And that is to care for those who can't take care of themselves. That's our road to heaven, isn't it? How am I going to get to heaven, Jesus? You see that person over there? It's going to depend on how you treated him. Not the big shot Roman soldier over here, or the big shot merchant. How'd you treat that guy over there? It doesn't seem to have any food. Go over and give him any food. I thought more than most popes, certainly in my lifetime, that would be his great contribution. His detriment was introducing into the church a significant amount of moral relativism, which very strangely didn't seem to work, because the heavy converts to the church now, which are growing, are all because of, despite the fact that he introduced a certain amount of moral relativism, compared to the other establishment churches, the Catholic Church is still like a rigid moral rock. And I think the converts, who are very, very well educated and very bright, feel that's where it's going to go back. That's going to be the debate now in the College of Cardinals. Where do they want to place the church now in that spectrum? And things have gone so much further than gay marriage, where we're talking about mutilation of children and immigration that's gone beyond taking care of the poor that want to come over, but really now serves the purposes of terrorism, organized crime, drug dealers, child molesters, child traffickers, communist governments. Is there going to be a recognition of that? We'll see as the cardinals get together. We were talking to Allison about something that also is extremely important, and maybe we should just take a look for a moment at the possible candidates to replace him, because I don't know who came in second last time to Francis. Apparently, as I told you, Francis came in second to Benedict earlier, but at the time that the vote was being taken for Francis, no one knew that. So Francis, when I went back and looked at the old list, and Cardinal Bergoglio was on the list, but he was down. He was not on like this. Here's a group of six that are outlined. This is an outline in the. This is a group that's picked out in the New York Post, like they really know the Catholic Church. But hey, it's as good as anybody else, I guess, at this point, because these things do tend to be a big surprise ultimately. But let's look at this. Let's look at this group. So Louis Cardinal Antonio Tagle is from the Philippines, and he was a very close friend of Pope Benedict. But he ran an organization in the Vatican that got into money trouble, and therefore, although he might have been like an odds-on favorite, a lot of people think that if they wanted to replicate Francis, he'd be the way to go. And I don't know if there isn't going to be an attempt to look for a more establishment cardinal rather than Pope Francis. Jean-Marc Cardinal Aveline is French. He's a French cardinal. He is also a progressive, but not with the strong opinions that Pope Francis had. He was also close to Pope Benedict. So it looks like you might have a somewhat more moderate, figure. Pietro Parolin is the favorite. Pietro Parolin is the Secretary of State. And the Secretary of State really is the second highest position in the Vatican in terms of the governance of the Catholic Church. And much like the Secretary of State in the United States, his job is to deal with all of the foreign countries. Now, he was a quiet opponent of some of the Pope's more left-wing thoughts, although supported others, and is definitely a European. So he has that tendency toward one world government. And I do believe he's responsible for some of the negotiations with China, allowing what a lot of people think was an impermissible intrusion in the church by the Red Chinese government. Robert Cardinal Sarah, who is from Africa, is, along with the next one that you see there, William Jacobus Cardinal Egypt. Both of them are considered very conservative. Sarah being the more conservative, which is very much true of the African church. Fastest growing group of Catholics in the world are in what's very close between Asia and Africa. And the last one on the list, Malcolm Cardinal Ranjith, is from Asia, and would be more in the progressive category. So two, Cardinal Sarah and Cardinal Egypt would be what would be regarded as a conservative correction to the Pope. Cardinal Tagle and Cardinal Ranjith would be very similar to the Pope, and Cardinal Aveline and the Secretary of State, Carl Parolin, would be somewhere in the middle, somewhat more in the middle. At least that is what you can get in reading their backgrounds. All that changes when they see the responsibilities of office, and that there's another list of 10 we can go beyond, and over the days we'll get you as much information about that as possible. Because I think this is a very monumental and momentous choice on the part of the Catholic Church. It's at a crossroads. When you see this many new, we gave you some of the statistics last night. I don't have them with me right now, but we're talking about rates of conversion over the last 2 years that are anywhere from 20 to 70% higher than any time in the past. And it affects, it affects Africa and it affects Asia, but it also affects the United States. It affects Canada and it affects South America. And the draw to the church is its traditions. For example, I guess one of the things that was more symbolic than anything else, and I always never understood this, which was to Pope Francis's opposition to the Latin Mass, to the point where it was even listed by the FBI in one of those stupid things that, Catholics who go to the Latin Masses have to be watched. They may be some form of white terrorist or so ridiculous. I do not understand how anyone would be opposed to the Latin Mass. It's so beautiful. You don't have to go to it. You only have very, very few. But if that happens to help you communicate with God, it's like this is very far away from Catholic services, but I love some of the really, really great black churches and the music. And I love it not just as music, but I think it's a way of communicating with God. And when we reach God in all different ways, and prayer is not just, kneeling down and saying, singing is very much prayer. I mean, the whole early church, the Gregorian chant, and we used to sing our prayers to God. So if you find that you can communicate with God better by singing and by music and by dancing, well, how wonderful is that? And for someone who wanted to open up the church, to try to open it up to new things, but to reject old things that for 1,000, 2,000 years have been used for that purpose in a very legitimate way seemed strange. Maybe I can get one of the priests who we'll have on over the next couple of weeks to explain this to me. I mean, I understood the left-wing Marxist kind of stuff because he did come from Argentina, and the liberation theology really brainwashed a lot of people and a lot of religious people in South America. And there it's also possible that some of that was exaggerated because he was constantly clarifying it. And at least there were two thoughts about the clarifications. He used to go too far, and then the Vatican would have to bring him back, or he didn't go too far. They'd leak him too far, and then he'd have to bring it back. And you never know. I mean, that's the group around. So before we get off, I'm going to remind you, although I hate to propagate this movie, but until you get to the ridiculous end of it, it really is quite a good movie in terms of at least learning the basics of what you're going to live through in the next 3 or 4 weeks, and that's the movie Conclave. Or if you want a more maybe a less jarring version of it, you could go to the old Anthony Quinn movie, The Shoes of the Fisherman, the great novel of, I guess, the 1950s. Well, we'll have to see. I think before the end of the week, we're going to have a trade agreement. It's going to solidify a lot. We're going to be on top of which one is the first one that ends up that way. And we're going to ask everyone to pray for a solution to the wars that are going on. The war in Ukraine, Israel. Pray for Iran. And pray for the Cardinals so they make the right choice. The right choice here can be wonderful for the whole world. Look at what Pope John Paul was able to do. God bless America.